I'd like to call the meeting to order. All board members besides Sherry are present. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Madam Chairman, I guess that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any comments?
Yes, I would like to thank and point out the fact that Cheryl Turek has been in the guidance office for a long time. Forever in the guidance office is kind of hectic, and she's keeping everybody going to the right door and everything, so thanks to Cheryl, and we'll be gonna see her.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. No policy meeting, right?
No.
Southwest Metro,
Southwest Metro still is on summer vacation.
same with CPAC.
Same, no meeting there, ACLS.
Community Ed,
Yes. Community Ed had 324 students who learned how to drive this year through the Community Ed program. They went back and checked all the people that signed up for different classes, and they found that 56 zip codes were represented on the applications for 1,554 people. 961 youths were swimming this spring and this summer. 340 children ages 3 through 5 attended 20 preschool classes. Next week is one of the finest activities. It's called Camp Invention, goes from Monday till Friday of next week. And also 7 adults attended adult basic education classes. So that's good that people are using that.
thank you. Early Childhood
No meeting.
Wellness Committee didn't
No.
meet. Superintendent reports.
All right. Yeah, likewise, taking off what Don said, congratulations to Cheryl Turk on her retirement, and that's going to be effective August 31st. But we'll hire someone in early August, so we have a transition period that that person can work with Cheryl for a number of days, so we have a smooth transition there. A few other updates here. Enrollment. In July gets a little slow, so we're expecting it to pick up, but enrollment projections, I think, are pretty close to what we think, and could be a little bit higher, but it's one of those things we really don't know the ones that do drop. So we're keeping still a close eye on that and really watching the class sizes of all the different grade levels. So you'll be getting something probably from me in early August, just showing you where we're at, and if we're there's a couple grade levels right now we're taking a look at where we could possibly add a teacher. So we want to keep it within, obviously, our guidelines. As far as good news, probably the best thing is that we've got a replacement for Lonnie Seifert at the high school, Nicole Adams, and she comes to us from LeSueur Henderson. She's had a very short but successful tenure there, comes very highly regarded. Before that, she was an assistant principal at Owatonna. I know Chuck Kyer from the New Prague Times will be doing an article, and she was here on Friday, met with Tom Wetchka, our assistant principal, Tony Boothie, and then met with HR, and then met with Chuck. So we're looking forward to her getting on board. Then we also, good news, we had a very successful first ever club swim meet here over the weekend. We had over 1,000 people here on Saturday. Sunday wasn't quite as many, but was still a lot of people here, over 300 swimmers. And the overwhelming feedback, I mean, people were just buzzing. They could not believe what a beautiful aquatic center we have. It was just very nice, and I heard a lot about that, so.
And that was the Neptune?
Yep,
Swim Club
Neptune,
that-
our Neptune Swim Club, hosted the whole meet, and we had, talking to Chuck Webb, our swim coach today, and Heather, who's our interim, aquatics manager, they both said it went as good as it could go. The parents of the Neptune Swim Club and a few community people, helped out to make sure it ran, smoothly, and it did, so. Very happy about that. And then the other thing, a big congratulations, and I know Chuck had it online in the New Prague Times. You know, we finished second in the Minnesota State High School League meet for clay target, and Woodrow Glazier was tied for the championship. And so we're going to have him come in August, hopefully, at our August meeting. And again, because he was here before as the state champion, but he repeated, and we took second, like I said. But they had the USA High School Clay Target League National Championship, and he won it. So Woodrow Glazier from our high school won it, and Nick Wagner, also from New Prague High School, he finished 9th. So quite the achievement, and we'll get both those guys in here at our August meeting. So I just want to share that with you too.
Thank you. Next to our discussion items, the student survey.
Okay, yeah, we've got Maren and Amy here to present. This is an annual survey we do. We have the state survey, and that's a very lengthy one. We don't get the results right away, but that's done every 3 years with 8th grade and
So it's 5th grade.
5th, 8th, and was the 3rd grade?
11th.
11th, okay, 5th grade and 11th. We decided to do an annual survey to get a better pulse. And so this is almost like a baseline, but they're going to do a little bit of comparison back to when these kids were in 5th grade or 8th grade, so you get an idea where we're at in regards to at-risk behavior and chemical usage and that, mental health, that type of thing. So this will be our baseline year with 7th and 10th grade, and obviously we're going to do this every year. And I had Amy and Maren, I asked them to be in charge of it, and they've done a great job, and they're going to present the information to you tonight. Go ahead.
Thank you. So like Tim said, it was really looking at safety, mental health, and chemical health, and just pulling those areas out so that we're able to better provide support and services to our kids and make sure that we're doing exactly what we should be doing. So go ahead.
And Tim added a goal this year as part of our district from at the start of 2017, and that ensured school safety. And so the way to measure that was to survey our students. And so the reason we picked our 7th and 10th graders, our current 7th and 10th graders, was so we could compare their Minnesota student survey data from 2 years ago. And so that's where those student populations were picked from. And we created the questions. We took them from the student survey from 2 years ago, and we really just kind of picked out the ones that, based on principal discussion along with some of our support staff, including our social workers, they were heavily involved with determining what questions we were going to include on the survey. We wanted to keep the survey quite short. The Minnesota Student Survey has nearly 100 questions, and so we wanted to ensure that ours was much quicker and that students would have stamina to be able to answer it with fidelity also, because sometimes when those questions get long, they may not be answering them as accurately. And so it was really important that we really prioritized some top questions that we felt would give us the data that we wanted. Parents were sent a letter in early January that allowed them the option to opt their child out of the survey, and also if they wanted to preview the survey, that option was given to them. And we did not have very many opt-outs. As you'll see, we had 3 in 7th grade and 1 in 10th grade. And we had 268 7th graders that ended up taking the test and 262 10th graders. And so this was done one day that we picked this winter in a core class. And so that was how administrator, our core teachers helped do this, and this was done through a Google form where then we were able to take the data and share it with you along with the admin team. And the admin team has also seen this data as well. So we're just going to go through and highlight kind of our big categories for you. And again, we're looking at our current, or just exited 7th and 10th graders. And then some of the questions we were able to compare with the data that this same population took 2 years ago. And we'll go through the summaries, and then you also have access to all the graphs of data below that you can certainly look at as well.
We really wanted to highlight, the areas that we would have data that would be striking if there's something that is going really well. And then we also wanted to determine if there was areas that we want to make sure that we're focusing on. So we'll go through some of those, and we have broke it up in those 3 different areas of mental health, chemical health, and safety. So we'll just talk through those a little bit, and then if there's questions, please feel free to ask.
So we had a high decrease in our current 7th grade students in how they find good ways to deal with things. And the quotation marks are because we wanted you to see the exact verbiage of how the question was worded to the students. And again, these were taken from the Minnesota survey in previous years. We have 88% of our students, they have not experienced suicidal thoughts. So we were quite pleased with that high number. And then 17% of our students have accessed professional support. And both as an admin team and with our social workers, we were happy with that number in terms of students, the awareness and the increase that students are receiving, and they're able to access additional support outside of their school day if that is something that they need.
When you say professional support, is that teachers or just counselors or anybody? Does that include? Or?
Anybody. So it was not defined. The professional support was the verbiage of the question. Yeah, the
So
intent.
it could be in school or out of school?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
absolutely, yep.
Somebody certified. You will.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we tried really hard to keep the questions just like they're worded in the Minnesota Student Survey, so it wasn't too off tangent. We wanted to know, are we really measuring what the purpose is behind the survey? So.
And then in 10th grade, and again, these kids were last assessed when they were 8th grade. So thinking of the jump from the middle school to the high school, that is a jump for our students. But looking at the same cohort of kids, 47% do not feel that they find good ways to deal with things that are hard. And compared to 10% in 8th grade of a similar cohort, so a strong increase in that category. We had a 6.5% decrease in suicidal thoughts, so we were happy to see that decrease. 52% increase in students hurting themselves purposely, and that is something that our social workers have seen an increase as well in the students that they are seeing and the reports that they are receiving. So some of this data that we are sharing, it really did align to where our support staff, they're seeing that their time as well. And then for our 10th graders, we had 23% of our students accessing that professional support. So
We were very happy that students are actually getting help, because I think that has been a big difference, that kids are okay with going and receiving help, whether it's in school or outside of school.
So questions on the mental health summary aspect? We'll move to chemical and drug use. And in this one, we looked at the 7th grade students, very high numbers, both 99 and 9.5% when we're looking at our alcohol, and the 99.5% not using marijuana. And then in 10th grade, we did have an increase in alcoholic consumption from when they were in 8th grade. And we also had a slight increase in the marijuana usage. And then the last category that we assessed was school safety. And this is very important as well. And so you'll see here that we took some highlights in terms of bullying and social media. And 65% of our students, they know who to go to when they're feeling bullied. That's a number we want to continue to work on, and ensuring that our students know that they can go to their teachers, that they can go to their principals, administrative support, the other support staff in the building, whether that's the counselors or the therapists that we have provided or the social workers. And then you'll see we have 92% of students are feeling safe compared to 97% in fifth grade. Again, thinking about the transition from building as well, transitioning from an elementary school to a middle school, higher population of students as well could be some of the factors in that decrease. 81% of our students have not been bullied for their race, ethnicity, or national origin compared to 95% in fifth grade. So that number has shifted quite a bit. And 82% of our students have not been bullied via social media compared to 87% in fifth grade. So not as much of a shift in that category. And then the last area with our 10th graders, we had 58% of students know who to go to when feeling bullied. And so similar to 7th grade, those are definitely areas that are lower than what we would like to see.
Don't they kind of talk about that at
Yeah.
the beginning of the school year?
Yeah, well, we did talk about that with both the administrative team as well as counselors, social workers, and our support staff, because I don't think people realize that just talking about it maybe once or twice, that it needs to be an ongoing conversation, and that classroom teachers need to do that too. So we are going to be more systematic about that. We've talked to our administration about that as well as the support staff, and just making sure that kids know, and it doesn't have to always be a counselor or social worker. If you have a good relationship with a teacher, you can go to them, they can support you and help direct you, to a person that can systematically help you with what's going on, whether that's an assistant principal, if it's a counselor. And so talking about that a little bit more and more frequently, because some kids, are high flyers. If something happens, they don't always know that there's a social worker in the building that they can go to. So I think that's big. We talked a lot about that with our mental health team in the district of how to support those kids better.
Flash it up on the TVs and the.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then in regards to school safety, 87% of students are feeling safe compared to 95%. Again, thinking of the building shifting as well. That is another step moving into the high school, which has more students than our middle school. 87% of our students have not been bullied for their race, ethnicity, or national origin compared to 96. That should say 8th grade, not 5th grade. And then the last one there, 79% of students have not been bullied via social media compared to 83% in 8th grade. So any questions on our safety summary that we provided? Again, you'll scroll down in your docs, you have all the graphs of all 24 questions, so you're able to see for the questions that we were able to compare, there is comparison data. If there's not, the question wasn't aligned enough, or there wasn't a question like it on that survey from a couple years ago. So then we also want to highlight some of the steps that are currently occurring and some steps that we have planned for this upcoming school year, really based on some of the data that we received.
So like we talked about was just that communication about what supports are available. Be more systematic about it, just making sure that students know who to go to, and making sure that people understand how then when a student does come and talk to them or reaches out, then how to facilitate that conversation too. Because some of our teachers don't know, if they're not maybe trained as a counselor or social worker, or how to guide that conversation. And then, as you know, continuing with the Duck Cup speaker and bringing additional resources in, like NAMI, Safe Spaces. NAMI, as you know, is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, so they offer a lot of free resources and not only trainings, but we're actually investigating a little bit more of like a youth mentor type of thing, where young adults come in and they can be resources to kids. So it's not always like a professional, but they have these young adults trained, and it's more in activities like a lunchtime or a passing time, and having more resources available. And then if you want to talk a little bit about Safe Spaces as well.
This next year, we're bringing in Safe Spaces, which is a body safety curriculum, if you will, and ensuring that our students are understanding safe practices in terms of social media safe practices, and also safety with themselves and when they're interacting with others. And so Safe Spaces will be implemented in all K-6 classrooms this next school year. It's a one-time presentation where there's a trained gal that will come in and speak to all of our students. And so in years past, she has come to our 2nd and some 3rd grade classrooms, but we're going to broaden her a little bit more and get her into all of our classrooms, where she will adjust her conversation based on the age group of her students. So we are excited to bring her in. And because we've had her in a smaller capacity, she's definitely someone that we can rely on. And the teachers, the second grade teachers that have had her, have some really good insight with her and feel that her message is really powerful and that the kids respond to it. So it was important for us to bring her in a broader perspective. And this summer, Jen Schenecker and I have been working with our health leaders in the district, if you will. We have designated grade level reps, and so we've been realigning our K-12 health curriculum. We've had elementary reps in this summer, and then we met with our middle school and high school teams back this spring, and ensuring that we are realigning and just really looking at what we are specifically teaching as we talk more about safety and personal well-being, self-confidence, some of those really important skills that can help our students long-term, and being really more intentional about that type of instruction. And so our social workers have also been involved, and we're excited to kind of roll that out this fall. We've also, through that, been able to line up some professional development for our 6-12 health teachers that they will receive during workshop week from a trained therapist in terms of how best to really instruct our students on keeping themselves safe.
And I know this is a bullet point down below, but we already, at the end of the school year, started to integrate our specialists within the health classes. So bringing our social worker in to talk about mental health, having our chemical health counselor come in and talk about chemical use and chemical awareness, and having those other professionals embedded within the day-to-day curriculum. So it's not just the health teacher, they have that support. That's just another additional layer where they talk about it in a different way. And it's just another familiar face, too, for the students to see and become familiar with.
Madigan will be continuing to do some work in our elementaries specifically, and we've also are working with Officer Mortensen out in the Elko New Market community, so he can be visible with some conversations around drugs and bicycle safety, but really the drug and opioid abuse that's happening, starting some of that instruction in our upper elementaries. So both officers have been willing to really be intentional about that moving forward. So we're excited for their presence in our schools as well. And then our kindergarten classes will be implementing a new curriculum called Second Step. And this is a social emotional curriculum that comes highly regarded from researchers, and there's area districts that are using this curriculum as well. Currently, our pre-K program, led by Mary Bartushik, she has had this program for a couple years. And so we're excited to bridge that transition with such a high number of preschool students going into our kindergarten classrooms. That common language, if you will, and routine will be really helpful. So we're excited to offer that for our pre-K and kindergarten classrooms now moving forward.
And then we have the top secret presentation in October. So Sarah Tabone, our chemical health counselor, set that up with the Shakopee Police Department, and that'll be at the high school auditorium. And so we'll have some publication around that to market that event. But that's for the community members. And what it is it's just the police come in and they set up the stage as like a bedroom of a teenager, and walks through for parents of what to be aware of in terms of maybe behaviors or items in a room, of what to look for any kind of chemical use. And so it's been highly regarded. I haven't seen it myself, but Sarah spoke very highly of it. She did attend this last year in Shakopee, and so we're able to bring that in, and that'll be a great event. And so Jordan will be partnering with us, of course, with that. So.
And then we do have our hotline that is posted both visibly at the middle school and the high school. So the bolded items are some of our new ideas and implementation for this upcoming school year. And so we just wanted to provide you with this list that we will be continuing to update regularly. Questions or suggestions from you?
Have you ever considered or done exit interviews with seniors who may be more open or vocal with something like this as they're leaving? They may not care what they say or be honest or more honest.
Yeah.
We should follow up on that. Something we might talk with Nicole. There is an exit survey that's done with seniors. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure what's on there, but I know they've done that annually. That's a good suggestion.
I have another suggestion based on my experience with high schoolers, but I think as far as reporting bullying, some kids don't want to officially report things, but to say that if you want to talk to someone about it, you don't have to I mean, if you just want help dealing with it, you don't have to get anyone, you don't have to name names. But
Right.
you can still access the support, you know. I think if that really needs to be made clear to students so they get the support they need.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a survey we'll do. Now, we got some baseline data, and it's obviously from that we can see things that we need to target, which brings us to the action plan. So it relates back to our goal. But I know middle school staff members always remember me saying that, but what gets measured gets done. Measure what matters. And obviously, this matters. This is very important. Student safety, you know, mental health, chemical usage, stuff like that, just at-risk behaviors. So it's very important. It is a priority, and now we're measuring it to see where we're at so we can address these things. I think it's very positive. So I thank you two for doing this, taking the lead, and keep in mind, Amy meets with, they have a crisis team.
Yep, monthly. We have
Meet
a
monthly
meeting.
with all the counselors, social workers, chemical
Psychs.
health specialist,
Yep, and our psychologist as well.
and psychologists as well. So they have a team that looks at this and really helps come up with this action plan. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a few resolutions. So Denny's on deck.
We'll have Sandy probably do the first one dealing with, to make permanent fund transfer.
Right, so when we implemented our unpaid meal policy last June, I think it was June or July, part of that policy was to regularly turn over to collections unpaid meal account balances after we've done several steps of initial collection efforts. And unfortunately, the federal guidelines say that if there's bad debt that you can't collect, that needs to be reinstated from the general fund. You can't use nutrition services money to cover that bad debt. So last year, we actually had just a little bit, because we were just starting our collection efforts. We only had about $2,500. This year, we've got $11,443.53 that we need to transfer from our general fund into our food service fund. Unfortunately, we don't, I mean, it's gotten a little bit better, but we didn't see the improvement we really wanted to see with, you know, turning them over to TransWorld at first to get some initial collection letters, and then actually turning them over for collection. We do see, you know, the same families again and again being turned over for collection. And I think after this year, we're really going to have to evaluate what we're doing and try to figure out some new ways to deal with this.
What do other districts do? I mean, I know some it's a way bigger problem than what we have.
Yeah,
But
actually,
is
we have probably a bigger problem than the average district, I would say.
Oh, really?
I do, yeah. I talked to some districts that are larger than ours or the same size, and they have much lower levels. And so, you know, we're doing everything we can on the collection side. You know, we used to have principals call, and they wanted to get out of that business because of the relationship they have with those parents. And that's when things really started to escalate a couple of years ago. So, you know, the policy does allow an alternative meal. That's probably our last option if we want to try to do that. There is a way to do that, at least at the elementary level, that wouldn't be so intrusive. Right now, you know, we don't want to do that, but we did leave it in the policy. And because we're doing everything we can on the collection side. So we just don't want this large of an amount have to be transferred from our general fund every single year, because that's a lot of money. So we'll be monitoring it. I really wanted this to be not such a big problem this year, but unfortunately it still is.
Thank you. Any other questions for Sandy? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to consider the resolution to make a permanent fund transfer from Fund 01 to Fund 02.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program regulations do not allow nonprofit school service accounts to absorb operating losses due to bad debt, whereas the non-food service accounts must be used to restore identified and recorded bad debt, whereas New Prague Area Schools has identified and recorded $11,443.53 in bad debt in the Nutrition Services Fund 02 as of June 30th, 2018. Now therefore, be it resolved by the New Prague Area School Board of Education that the New Prague Area Schools will transfer $11,443.53 of its unassigned general fund balance to the Nutrition Services Fund 02, effective June 30th, 2018. How do you vote on that, Don? Kim?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
Next, we have a resolution for a donation from the New Prague Sportsman Club.
Next, I'll consider a motion to consider the resolution to accept the donation for the New Prague Area Sportsman Club.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas the school board may accept the gift valued at $1,000 or more only by adoption of a resolution by 2/3 of its members, and whereas the New Prague Sportsman's Club wish to donate $2,000 to the school district under no conditions. Now therefore it be resolved by the New Prague Area Schools Board of Education to accept the donation under no conditions. How do you vote on this, Jerry?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
We have missed resolutions.
Yes, so back in June of 2013, the board did approve us moving to the missed liability and property insurance pool. And as you know, it's been very successful. They were going through their paperwork, and at the time we approved it, it wasn't official yet because they needed at least 5 members to make it happen. And so we kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit anyway, and so it wasn't quite done yet. But then we never did go back and officially approve the bylaws. So we just need to do that in arrears now. I think there's a resolution, and the bylaws were attached for your information.
At this time, I'll consider a motion to consider the resolution for membership in the Minnesota Insurance Scholastic Trust.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas pursuant to its authority, the board has received and reviewed an agreement for the district's participation in a self-funded insurance and excess insurance casualty and property pool known as the Minnesota Insurance Scholastic Trust. Whereas certain formats and procedures have evolved for the prompt and efficient operation and administration of the previous mentioned. Now therefore it be resolved and is hereby resolved that the board approves the district membership in this organization and adopts the organization's cooperative agreement as presented and intends to be bound to therefore. The board hereby authorizes and directs its president and secretary to execute a signature of intergovernmental cooperative agreement as presented, and any amendments thereto are on behalf of the district in the form of the Exhibits A. And Exhibit A shows no amendments. How do you vote on the resolution, Don?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
We have the ties reorganization.
Yes, so the transition from TIES to Sourcewell, which is the former National Joint Powers organization, is final or is becoming final. Now they need all the member districts to adopt this final resolution, and Tim can sign on behalf of the board because you have designated him as the official signer. We have been billed an invoice of $81,000, which is our share of the debt. That is not that's an estimated number. It's going to be on the high side, we hope. But that is still an estimated number based on, we still have to get the final number based on their 17-18 audit report, which isn't done yet. That is about half of what we thought we would have to pay to leave membership on June 30th. So I think that was a good decision by the board to kind of hang in there and see if this transition to Sourcewell worked out. We are going to be billed an additional about $13,000 in building maintenance, and that will come in September after the deal closes. It costs about $600,000 a year to operate the facility, and $13,000 would be our share to operate the facility for 18 months. We hope that we will sell it before then and that we will get some of that back, but we are going to be billed an additional $13,000. Right now, they're entertaining offers for the building that have to come in by August 31st, and so we're hoping to have some offers, and the executive board will entertain the offers and see if we can't get that building sold in the next 6 months or so. I should say also that $81,000, there is no membership fee this year. We were paying about $25,000 in annual membership fees, but Sourcewell does not have a membership fee. So you can kind of take that $25,000 off that 81 to kind of compare apples to apples. So that's about $57,000 or so extra that we are paying, but it's still a lot less than what we thought. So we just need to pass this final resolution. I'll get the check and all the paperwork into ties, and then they can close in August.
Done. And we're done with them, right?
Yeah, we're,
Ever talk about
Really?
it?
yeah, we're never, yeah, I'm done talking about ties.
Okay, good.
Okay, any questions?
No.
Okay, at this time, I'll consider a motion to look at the resolution to have the ties reorganization and definitive agreements ratified.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas the district's board desires to approve and ratify the reorganization as set forth in the definitive agreements, and to approve and ratify the district's legal representative's execution of the definitive agreements on behalf of the district. How do you vote on this, Don?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
New Prague Area Education Foundation grants. There's several of them listed online.
There's about
Yeah.
5 or 6 of them. There's quite a few we do during the year, which is good.
Yeah, it came to just under $6,500
Yeah.
for the elementary schools. The biggest one, Marn facilitated one, was the Growing to Love books as a community. So this will be, you know, sort of a joint school community project to encourage families to read to their children by providing the same book to go home with every student on a rotating business. So Martin got this idea from another district, and we think it will be a good thing.
I'll make a motion to approve the,
I make a motion that we approve the NPAEF grants.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Long-term facilities maintenance plan for Southwest Metro.
Yes, we have 2 plans to approve. The first by resolution, this is for Southwest Metro Intermediate District. The statute allows intermediate districts to have member districts levy for long-term facilities maintenance. And the superintendents, the board, the business managers have all agreed that this is a good move for Southwest Metro. Our share of this is $10,102.40. It's a total of $250,000 and split up by usage at the intermediate district. Just asking you to approve this resolution, and then it'll be added to our levy this fall.
I see our percentage is pretty low. That means we don't have much.
It's very low.
Yeah, it's very low on here. Okay, we need I'll make a motion that we approve the long-term facilities maintenance plan with Southwest Metro.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
You need to do a roll call vote. This is a resolution.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a copy of it, Denny?
Let me see. Yes, they do. Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider the resolution approving the Southwest Metro Intermediate School District Long-Term Facility Maintenance Program budget.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Be it resolved by the School District of New Prague School Area Schools that the School Board of Southwest Metro Intermediate School District number 288 has approved a long-term facility maintenance program budget for its facilities for the 2019-2020 school year in the amount of $250,000. The various components of the program budgeted are attached in the Exhibit A hereto and are incorporated herein for reference. How do you vote on this, Jerry?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Jimmy?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dennis, yes, item passes.
And we have our long-term facilities maintenance plan.
Right, this is required to be approved by the board every year by July 31st in order to levy for it the following calendar year. You'll see we have an expenditure plan and a revenue plan. The expenditure plan does include just our normal maintenance projects, as well as the large roof project and chiller project that's going at the high school right now. It's a 10-year plan, and then the revenue plan reflects the bond payment schedule for the high school and roof project. The bonds were sold in April, and the project is well underway. Hopefully will be done before staff comes back. And then it shows how much revenue will come from our Fund 7, our debt service fund, to pay for those bonds, and how much revenue will come in the form of aid and levy from our taxpayers.
I have kind of a silly comment, but one of the pages in here is flipped over. If you could flip it back in the PDF, so if anyone wants to review it.
Oh, I
it's-
thought I fixed that. Okay, yeah, I thought I fixed that. Sorry about that. I did it 3 times. That's why it's wrong.
It was right the second time.
Probably. Okay.
Well, and speaking about the high school, what's the schedule on the roof?
A little bit behind. But
So when's the finish date?
Right before staff, I talked to Eric today.
it's like, we're cutting it very tight.
They were working Sunday, weren't they?
Yeah.
And they've got extra crews coming in too still.
But it's, I mean, it has to be working a couple weeks before school starts, right?
Right, but
Because of
right, and the parts.
the
that they-
chillers will be done before the roof
Right, and
is
the parts
finished.
they're gonna finish last will be towards the back gymnasium part, not near the classrooms.
So this just needs a motion and approval, and then we'll need to do an extract of the minutes in order to have Denny come back in and sign that in order to get it approved, or back into MD by the end of July. So just a motion and a second and a vote on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the long-term facilities maintenance plan.
All second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Anything else?
Is that it?
It?
Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Meeting adjourned.